Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Theology and Life. Today we're diving into the powerful first chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. In the plains of Moab, on the brink of the Promised Land, the great leader Moses stands not as a military general, but as a father and a shepherd. He recalls the people's history as they journeyed through the wilderness. The time to enter the land wasn't quite right, so Moses seized the opportunity to pause and reflect on God's greatness, which had been so evident throughout the past 40 years. Chapter 1 begins as a historical review, a way to revisit the most significant milestones in the people's journey. But at the same time, this chapter is a profound pastoral declaration. In verse 6, Moses says, "You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance. Go in and take possession of the land." Deuteronomy 1:6. What an inspiring line. It's a wake-up call for the sleeping heart. How many believers have lingered far too long at the mountain of false comfort or rested on a past accomplishment while the voice of God calls them to move forward? The crucial lesson here is that God calls His people to do what's possible so that He can do the impossible through them. In this chapter, Moses also recounts the story of the spies. He reminds them of the great disobedience of the majority, which resulted in a whole generation being condemned to perish in the wilderness without ever seeing the promised land with their own eyes. The real challenge the spies faced in Canaan wasn't the strength of the Canaanites. It was the lack of faith in their hearts and eyes that saw only themselves, not the Lord. In verse 26, Moses says, "But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God." How many times have we rejected God's call because we saw ourselves like grasshoppers, not just in the eyes of others, but in our own eyes as well? How many times have we forgotten that God is with us and is able to protect us and fulfill His promise? The lesson here is that faith doesn't mean the absence of fear, but rather obedience despite the fear. Moses concludes the chapter with the bitter words of a father, not the anger of a leader. With a broken heart, he says in verse 45, "You came back and wept before the Lord, but He paid no attention to your cries and would not listen." The lesson here is that tears shed too late cannot fix a moment of doubt in God's promise. There are moments when, if we don't choose to obey, no amount of words or tears will be enough to fix the consequences. And yet, the voice of grace remains ever present. God never leaves us in the wilderness forever. We welcome your questions and inquiries about the Christian faith and the Bible in the comments. We also encourage you to subscribe to the channel to receive this content regularly and to share it with others so that God's Word can reach everyone who needs it. May the Lord be with you until we meet again on Theology and Life.